Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Gail, and welcome to Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, our award-winning weekly podcast. Visit womenover70.com and learn how you may become engaged with our community through Aging Reimagined Circle. We hope to see you at our next online monthly program.
And today we're excited to be talking with Laurel Baer. She's 86. Laurel is Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Village Chicago. It's a community of people who choose to share interests, experience, and friendship as we age. Laurel has worked in various aspects of media communication for over 50 years. She's also is founder and former president of Bottomless Closet, the first of its kind, not-for-profit organization that provides clothing and support to women seeking employment. She writes for the Village's monthly newsletter about aging and ageism, which has been informative about her own aging process. And for the past 20 years, Laurel has been the caretaker for her husband. And she shared with us, I quote, "I consider myself in many ways a solo ager because I am primary caretaker for my husband and am making all decisions and doing all tasks by myself." So solo aging, while not living alone, is the focus of our conversation today with Laurel. And we want to thank you so much for being here to share your experiences and insights. We also want to thank our former guest, Jill Stewart, for connecting you with us. So welcome, Laurel.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, let's dive in and have you give us some context for your long-term role as a caregiver for your husband.
Okay. My husband's name is Andy, and we married late in life. We got married, we were both in our late 50s. It's interesting because our lives had crossed many times in the past. We actually went to the same high school, although I'm a year older than him, so we didn't know than he is. We didn't know each other then. And we met professionally in the advertising business. And then very late in life, we reconnected. And the other thing that's really funny is our social security numbers are only 82 digits apart. I don't know how that could have happened, but it's kind of weird. Anyhow, we got married in our late 50s, and 5 years later, he was diagnosed with some cognitive issues. And that was a long time ago. And as we've both aged, and he has aged, other what they like to call comorbidities have developed. So there are lots of things to take care of. And I must say that I am very fortunate in having this wonderful man to take care of, because he doesn't exhibit any of the frustrating and difficult behavior that many people do with cognitive issues. He's very easy to take care of. He doesn't wander around. He's happy. He's grateful. And in that I am so blessed, because 20 years of something else would have been an entirely different story. And the other thing I'm fortunate about is that I do have work that I love to do. So my entire life isn't given over to caregiving. So that's kind of how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit, or would you mind telling us a little bit, if he doesn't exhibit some of the typical conditions that people might have, but what is it that what do you need to do as caregiver?
Well, for him, it's mostly reminding, and just, making sure he has his medications, making sure he has diabetes, making sure he has his shots, making his doctor appointments, taking him to them, from them, just his overall well-being, plus all the rest of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you able to enjoy social life together?
Yes, we are. We go to family gatherings. People come over, and he can engage. It's best not to ask questions. People should know that when you're dealing with someone with memory loss. don't ask him how long he lived in this condo, you know. But he likes to have company. The village has a off again, on again play reading group. And I used to host it here at our house, and he just loved that. You know, we'd sit around the living room and read the play, and he loved having the people here and listening to the play and all that. And he's still the smartest person I've ever known. I mean, he's really smart. You can tell by his sense of humor comes out. And as I said, I'm very fortunate to be giving care to someone that's relatively easy to care for.
Tell us a little more then about you're identifying yourself as a solo ager.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we first thought about having a program for solo agers at the village, we were thinking, well, this is people who live alone. And then when the group started going, and also at the same time, I write our monthly newsletter, The Navigator, and I wrote an issue about solo aging, and discovered it is a way more nuanced concept than people think. First of all, there are lots of people who chose to be solo agers. They like being independent. They like being on their own. And yet they still have to do the kinds of planning and putting things in place that are necessary when you're on your own. We also discovered that there's a practical aspect to it, you know, dealing with making decisions and planning and that kind of thing. But there's also an emotional component to it. There's one particular person I know who is got her plans in place. She's got a great social life. She's got everything, you know, surrounding her that she needs. But she cannot get over the fact that she doesn't have family, you know, that she isn't close to her family. It just, you know, the holidays are hard for her. And, you know, there are lots of aspects to it. And it's interesting also, when we put out that newsletter, it got the most response than we ever have from one of those things. And I think it's because we were able to gather some quotes and comments from people. What's the worst thing about it? And then what do you like about it? I mean, even people who are struggling, you know, or like one individual who had to put the spouse into a care facility. I mean, he's a solo ager. And as I said, I consider myself one too, because, you know, I have to do everything, you know, change the furnace filters.
Yeah. You talk about village. Which village are you referring?
Oh, yes, it's the Village Chicago, which is primarily fully around the north side of Chicago. Some members downtown, up as far as Evanston. We have about 450 members at the moment.
And how does that help you, or what is there about the Village Chicago that is important to you as a solo ager?
Oh, well, as a solo ager, first of all, as a caregiver, it's providing me with a social and intellectual life. Even if I weren't working there, I would be able to participate in, you know, all the kinds of programs they have, the social programs. We have lots of presentations on Zoom that people can attend. And it also, as a member, which I am also, there are resources. Like for a month, I've been saying, this place needs a deep clean. It's driving me crazy. I keep looking around and seeing things that, you know, need to be cleaned. So I called up the other day and I said, I need a this and a that and then the other thing. And I've got all kinds of resources to get to help me.
Good.
So you're working as a director of strategic plan or strategic communication. So are you able to do that from home, or how do you manage your work
I do work from home. I work from home. I go into the office, occasionally. I go to meetings occasionally. I do have help in the house here, Monday through Friday, just in the mornings, 9 to 1. So my big social hour is lunch. I go out to lunch a lot. At 11:30 to 1 is my magic hour.
Keep that in mind.
And I'm able to do it. My office is in a different room for where my husband is. Sometimes I'll bring the computer in there and work in there so he can keep his eyes on me. But it's been wonderful to be able to work that way.
You talk about the emotional load of being the primary caregiver. Would you want to expand on that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. I think the two primary things are, one is guilt. I don't think a day goes by that I don't say to myself, what should I be doing? I should be doing more. I should be making him move around more than he does. I should, be having people come over more often. I should be playing Wii with them. I should be, and that's just, you can drag yourself crazy with that, but you have to look at the upside of that is because when I do that, it reminds me of how much I have done and I am doing to make his life good and happy and safe. And the other thing is, of course, the loss of freedom. It's, I'm pretty housebound. Fortunately, I'm a homebody. I think I'm the only person in America who didn't really notice when there was a pandemic going on because it didn't feel that different to me. But it's still, I'd like to go out and toss down a margarita with friends from time to time. And I just, it costs me money to do that. I can do it, but, and I believe that the upside of that is, yes, you've lost some freedom, but look at the sense of purpose that you have in your life. Look at what you're doing for this individual and his family. They don't have to worry about him. And, and despite everything, I would say we have a great marriage. It's interesting how a person can change so much, and you still love them. It's a wonderful thing.
It sounds like he's able to reciprocate that love too.
Oh, absolutely. I get thank you for taking such good care of me, and every time we're in the car going to somewhere that's 99% of the time for him, he'll tell me thank you about 6 times because he forgot that he told me the first time, of course. But, I mean, I am totally, honestly, I think it's, I almost feel guilty about it, that it's been so easy to care for him when it could have been so very difficult.
You write about aging and ageism for the newsletter, the column. So what have you learned about aging and ageism that really stands out for you?
Where do I start? I am so hot on this. I'm so hot on this topic. It's just fascinating to me. It all started, I think, it's almost 15 years now that the Frameworks Institute started working on the Reframing Aging project. And they did all that research and came up with all these wonderful ways to reframe aging. And that was the beginning of it. But since then, I guess I found some heroes in it. The first one being Ashton Applewhite, of course, who everybody knows. And I think one of the first things I learned from Ashton's writing is how to identify ageism, the stuff that slips past us. Gosh, you look so good for your age. Like that means you look younger than you are. Yay for you. That's younger isn't better than older. It's just different. So it's learning to identify it, and then it's learning to respond to it. A couple days ago, I posted on Facebook, I was watching some rehabbing, redecorating, rehabbing things, which I love to watch. And they keep talking about this granny wallpaper and granny fabrics. I said, I am so sick and tired of these rehabbers calling wallpaper they don't like granny paper. There's a difference between old and old-fashioned. So I do like to step back if possible. So that's an important thing I learned. And then the whole issue of internalized ageism, when the village actually had an award that we gave out annually called the Trailblazer Award. And one year we gave it to Becca Levy, Dr. Becca Levy, who wrote Breaking the Age Code. And that book was just like a revelation to me. The whole idea that negative attitudes about aging could impact everything, your health, and this whole concept of internalized ageism, where you adopt the attitudes of the culture and you apply them to yourself. Everybody does it. I do it myself. Am I too old to wear jeans? At least I can know that I'm doing something that doesn't make any sense. But that's where this whole notion of negative attitudes about aging can reduce your life expectancy by an average of 7.5 years. It's just become a meme now, like aging is bad or loneliness is bad for you with smoking. I see it everywhere.
But do you believe that? I mean, do you believe that? I know, we know Becca Levy's work and what she's, does that sound true to you?
Absolutely. I mean, if you average out, all the studies that have been done where they take people and they followed them for decades, and the way you can influence how people, what she's done in the laboratory by giving people images of weak old people and having them do worse on memory tests, and their handwriting gets worse and their posture gets worse. I mean, the mind is so subjected to those suggestions. Yeah, I do believe it. And the word that most people leave out when they say it is average, on average, 7.5 years. And then my next hero is Tracy Gendron, who wrote Ageism Unmasked. And that's where I learned about the history of ageism and how it's a socially constructed concept, that it's how it came to be, how 65 came to be this number where you became out of date. The whole concept of retirement became a life stage. She points out that it's a negative mindset. It's who you used to be and what you used to do. It's not healthy. I have a thing here that she says, which I love, which is, aging is a slow and steady process of change that ultimately leads to our becoming our unique individual selves. I'm so sorry. I get these terrible phone calls all day long. And I really have experienced that. I mean, I feel more myself than I ever have in my whole life, and you don't see it until you get there. You don't see it coming. You don't feel it. Is that your experience too? It's happening, but you don't realize it until you get there. So
yeah, I certainly think so. I'm fascinated too with studies that suggest that as we get older, especially into our 80s, we become happier. People are happier.
It's true. I mean, absolutely. I mean, the world we're living in right now, is there much to be happy about? And yet you find it, you find it. You know what it is for yourself. Yeah.
A lot to do with coming into yourself. The older you get, the more you come into yourself, which makes you happy. because you're not repressing anything. You're allowing it all to come out.
That's right. And, you stop caring about that stuff that you used to care about, I mean, I used to put on makeup and all this stuff, I don't care. It's not going to change what people think of me, They're not going to like me because I have pearly skin. They're not like me because I don't.
Are you working on other topics for your newsletter?
Oh, yes. I just am thinking about, there's one of my colleagues at the village wrote it, and it's on the subject of adult children of aging parents and, what all the issues that come up for them. She had a really scary experience with her own father. So we got into that. So, but I'm going to be next. And I'm thinking about trying to find some interesting and new ways to talk about community. We fling that word around a lot, and there's so many components to it. This idea of loose ties and kind of tangent, the things that you build community with. They just aren't your neighbors and your next of kin. There's a lot of ways to build community. We were doing a presentation on advanced care planning and talking about the subject of planning ahead and what you have to get in place, all that stuff. And one of our staff members talked about the fact that there's a crossing guard that she passes every morning on her way to the L. And that person has become a part of her support network. If she doesn't show up for a few days, that person would know. I love all those little ways you can shore up your life and extend your sense of community.
Yeah. Especially finding different ways for those who do not have family, as you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And who are solo agers, who don't have others that they live with. And so I think that finding community, as you're discussing, is a major way of feeling more comfortable in the world as well.
Yeah. It's kind of essential. You just made me think of something. The term solo aging has got a little bit of sadness attached to it. I wish there was another way to talk about it, except nobody would know what you were talking about. I know there was somebody at some point who tried to promote this term, elder orphans. Can you imagine? Why do they always make everything that happens to old people so sad? It's not. It's just
Yes, I caught on to that term also, and I was like, oh no. This is, although I've heard people refer to themselves as an elder orphan. So, but I think that has come to mean that these are people who had really no connections with family or close friends. So, yeah, it's a sad one. Let's use different language.
exactly.
Yes. And as you get older, of course, you lose so many people who were your support network necessarily. And that can make a big difference too, and create this idea of elder orphan.
Yeah. I had this idea of calling it, just referring to it as heads of household, but that's a little too academic and demographic, but it basically is what it is. I mean, the head of household has to take care of, making sure whoever is in the household is safe.
Yeah, right.
So what can you offer other women who will be in your shoes or are currently? Yeah.
I feel a little uncomfortable answering this question because, as I've told you, I've had an easy time of it. However, I can say that when this first happened 20 years ago, I did wander around for a time saying this, we don't even married 5 years. this isn't what I signed on for. I can't do this. Why is this happening? All that kind of stuff. And then suddenly, somehow, I got to the point of, I have been training my whole life to be able to do this. I'm organized. I know how to get things done. I know how to plan. I'm empathetic. And I think what that process is there's just something inside of you that you just have to let go. You have to stop fighting it. It's there. It's not going to go away, and it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, and you just have to stop fighting it. And it's interesting. And, I've been going along all these years, and last year I found myself in the emergency room. I was fine, but there I was by myself, of course, catastrophizing. I have cancer, and I'm going to die, and I'm going to leave him all. I was sobbing because I'm thinking I'm going to die and leave him all alone. I just couldn't stand the whole thought of it. And somehow I was there for a week. They fixed me up and I went home. But through that process, I realized that I was still, after all these years, had some level of resentment in me. And for some reason, that experience dissolved it. And when I came home from there, I had a different attitude. I felt more like I was a caregiver, a nurse, not a nurse, but a caregiver, period. That, if something happened to him, it wasn't my fault. I was doing all the right things. There were things that were happening that I couldn't prevent. I didn't have that, that tension all the time. And that was just, less than a year ago. But it's been much easier even since then. As easy it was before, it's been much easier. I don't feel that life and death sword hanging over my head all the time. And I can't tell you how to get there. It's just, it's an internal journey. But I think, as I said, the idea of letting go, it helps.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I know so many of our listeners will resonate with your experience and appreciate your insights. And thank you for talking about everything so openly. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And listeners, we'd like to see more of you at our monthly online programs. Make your voice heard as together we change the conversation about women aging. Visit Aging Reimagined Circle at womenover70.com. And we want to thank our sponsor, Plymouth Place in LaGrange Park, Illinois, where senior living is redefined with options and opportunities to fit individual needs and preferences. And if you're interested in another wonderful podcast, we recommend Beverly Glazer. Are you ready to ignite your next chapter? Aging with Purpose and Passion is the weekly podcast inspiring women over 50 to embrace bold life shifts and unlock their potential through captivating stories from trailblazing senior women. AgingWithPurposeandPassion.com. Thank you for listening.